Hey there, and good afternoon, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Bob. A few weeks ago, I asked people on YouTube to send me a bunch of jokes, just for the fun of it. I just want to see how many I got. I got over 250 jokes. I was like, woo, here we go. Now, to understand jokes aren't really supposed to be offensive to anybody. They're not supposed to be life-threatening or, you lose sleep over it. It's just a joke. America's gotten a little too wishy-washy about jokes. And you still have to keep a sense of humor, otherwise you're never going to get past this thing, this COVID thing. You're not going to get past life. You're not going to get past anything. Uh, the history of jokes started back in 425 BC in Greece, and it was Aristophanes, whatever. He was a comic playwright in the ancient Greek theater. He had his own ancient Greek theater, which was basically an outdoor thing. And people used to come and laugh, and they used to do slapstick, and they used to do some silly jokes and thought-provoking items. They used to shoot out, and this way people could laugh because it was a terrible time. They didn't even have, cell phones way back when. But anyway, also another good book to read is Dante's Divine Comedy. You want to read that, you're going to need an encyclopedia to read it. And you're going to have a brain 3 times the size of any of ours to understand what the hell it means. But it's funny. There's a bunch of different types of humor. There's slapstick. Slapstick would be like the Three Stooges, Charlie Chaplin. Self-deprecating jokes, which are my favorite. I went to a proctologist and he stuck his finger in my mouth. And of course, there's the absurd humor, weird, whatever you want to call it. That would be like a Monty Python. And those, we're just going to leave that alone because Monty Python, they're in a class by itself. Improv would be like a Saturday Night Live or like spontaneous live performances in front of a live audience. I used to like doing it. Witty or dry humor would be like David Letterman and Stephen Wright. Um, Deadpan humor. Observational humor. That's also one of my favorites. Seinfeld was big for that. They'd say, "Oh, she eats peas one at a time." Now, of course, there's dirty humor, kind of, to get the real quick joke, the real quick one. Uh, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy are big for that. They just want to get the big laugh quickly. Of course, there's dark humor, very dark. You have to think a little bit before you watch it. Like, why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. Yeah, there's a bunch of things. Comedy's universal. I love sarcasm, um, which is probably the most thought-provoking kind of comedy and the most intelligent also. Um, it's basically strongly negative, and it's like I said, it's often the most intelligent form of comedy in the comedy field. Uh, you tell somebody zombies eat brains, you're safe. Um, Stop worrying about growing old and start worrying about growing up. Ooh, that was told to me a few times. Bada bing. Uh, Comedy could also put you at ease a little bit when my father died. Me and my mother were walking back from the gravesite, and I just looked at her and said, now I could save money on Christmas time and I could save money on Father's Day gifts. I looked at her and she laughed and I laughed. And everybody that was watching us knew that we'd be okay. We were going to get through it, and we did. We did very well. I missed the old man, but we got through it through humor. In conclusion, like I said, comedy is therapeutic. Definitely makes you live longer. Look at all the comedians that lived either near 100 or over 100 years old, right? And Jerry Lewis, George Burns, Bob Hope, and there's still some going still too. Betty White's still going, Mel Brooks, Bob Newhart. Uh, Charlie Chaplin, and this is a quote. Charlie Chaplin, one of my favorites, said, "A day without laughter is a wasted day." It is so damn true. Um, anyway, some people send me some jokes. I want to read a couple to you. This one's from Bob, New York. Guy goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I eat apples. I shit out apples. I eat bananas. I shit out bananas. What should I do?" Doctor says, "Eat some shit." Woman calls Dirty Johnny's mother and says, "I caught your son playing doctor with my 8-year-old daughter." So Johnny's mother says, "Well, these kids, these 8-year-old kids, they're curious about sex at that age." The mother said, "Curious about sex? He took out a fucking appendix." Husband and wife were sitting watching a TV program about psychology when he turned to his wife and said, "Honey, I bet you can't tell me something that will make me happy and sad at the same time." And she said, "You have the biggest penis of all your friends." The man phones work and says, "Sorry, man, I can't come in today." The boss says, "How come? How sick are you?" "Well," the guy says, "you be the judge. I'm in bed with my sister." That was from Bob, Babel, New York. The guy goes up to a bartender and says, "Me and my wife want to make a baby." The bartender says, "Hey, congratulations." He says, "Thanks, man. We're almost done. All we need now is a head and a left foot." That was Jimmy from Wyoming. What's worse than having ants in your pants? Uncles. That's Bob from New York. Uh, Guy wakes up in a hospital bed. He goes, "Doctor, doctor, I can't feel my legs." The doctor says, "That's because we amputated both your arms." Some people are afraid of heights. I am afraid of widths. And of course, Stephen Wright from Maine. What do Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? Same middle name. Old guy calls a repairman. He says, "There's a leak in my ceiling over my kitchen table." The repairman says, "When did you first notice it?" The old guy says, "Last night when it took me 2.5 hours to finish my soup." It's Jerry from Jerry from Las Vegas. An old guy with Parkinson's disease goes into an ice cream parlor and says, I'd like an ice cream, please." Girl behind the counter says, "What flavor do you want?" Guy says, "No matter, I'm going to drop it anyway." Oh, man. Doctor says to the patient, "Doctor, I'm a, doctor, doctor says to the patient, I'm afraid you don't have much time left." The patient says, "My God, how long do I have?" The doctor says, 10. Patient says, 10 what? 10 what? 10 days, 10 years. Doctor says, 10, 9, 8, 7. Girl goes to the doctor, "Doctor, doctor, will I be able to play the violin after this operation?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course." And she goes, "Great, I never could." That was George from Florida. The guy accidentally cuts off 10 of his fingers. He rushes to the emergency room. The doctor says, "Give me your fingers and see what I can do." "But I don't have the fingers," says the guy. Doctor says, "Why didn't you bring the fingers?" The guy says, I couldn't pick them up." That's Phil from Pennsylvania. The doctor sees the vet. A patient tells the doctor, "Doctor, doctor, I keep seeing into the future." Doctor says, "When did this start?" Patient says, "Next Tuesday." Doctor took Doctor took his patient into the room and said, "I have some good news and I have some bad news." The patient said, "Give me the good news first." Well, the doctor says, "They're going to name this disease after you." That was from Debbie in Texas. The patient goes to my doctor, "Doctor, my anus hurts." Doctor says, "Could you tell me exactly where it hurts?" He says, "Right around the entrance." Well, as long as you call it an entrance, it will hurt. That's from Monaco and Babel. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We have a couple of shows coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to have some musical artists, comedians. We're going to have people from Broadway. We're going to have some stars. We're going to have some musical talent. Don't forget to join us. We're going to be on Friday nights. Should be a lot of fun. Hope it's a lot of fun. I'm going to have some guests right here in the studio, and it should be a good time. Thanks a lot for coming by. We'll see you next time.